from a point of perspective, I'm taking over the company because I want this fucker dead.
I'm Austin.
And I'm Cloud.
This is We Watch Movies.
This week's movie is Freejack. Freejack is a 1992 science fiction action film directed by Jeff Murphy, starring Emilio Estevez, Mick Jagger, Rene Russo, Anthony Hopkins, Jonathan Banks, and David Johansen. How about a plot synopsis?
Well, the race car driver almost gets into a horrific accident, but a organization transports him into the future by 18 years. They revive him, even he's not really dead, he's just like incapacitated, because they're going to use his body to put someone else's mind in it. And so he manages to escape, and he's known as a Freejack. So people are out to hunt him, and then he finds his old girl, and she ends up working for the bad guy.
The bad guy turns out to be the guy that she's working for.
Yeah.
Which, if you watch the trailer, they totally give away like 3 different times. Yeah. It's like you see him lying in the glass coffin, you see him like in the hologram thing at the end with the cigar, and he does the like sorry to disappoint you and then winks. Mm-hmm. And there's like one other thing. It's one of these like trailers that was like it basically shows you bits from every single part of the movie, and so kind of shows you most of the movie in
we gave it all away.
Yeah. And the only thing it doesn't give away is that there's the other guy that wants to take over the company. That's not in the trailer, but everything else is there basically. One of the other things, if you watch the trailer, is what seems to be early like uncolor corrected versions of the like some of the opening future stuff, like the chase after they bring him in, and also when they're sitting there at the what is it, the Nissan sign at the racetrack waiting for him like to transport him. Mm-hmm. All of that stuff brighter, like almost like it's day, and when you see it in the movie it's all dark and shadowy and there's fog and you can't really see very much. But in the movie, it's like clear and bright and ordinary looking. Not in the movie, in the trailer, it's all clear and bright and ordinary looking. And it's not like that in the movie. No. So I don't know if they decided later, this should be dark. Or if they just hadn't gotten around to it yet and the trailer was made super early. Although it looks like they'd already shot the whole movie because the whole movie's in the trailer. And it is kind of a neat... it's dumb and doesn't make any sense, and it's a little bit late for this because this is early 90s instead of 80s, but just the way it's like lasers go everywhere when there's the time jump thing, and like this grid of lasers that apparently nobody sees and doesn't show up on the videotape. We gotta teleport everybody, but please don't cross the lasers. And But before that, something I realized was that I never realized before was that I don't think I've ever heard Mick Jagger speak. Like, I've heard him sing plenty, of course, but I don't think I've ever heard him just talk. And so the first time he talks and he says something like, what is it that he says? I was going to say it's like get him, but it's not. But it's like, it's just a couple of words, and it's in this really weird tone that he doesn't really use for the rest of it, because he just like you see him and he's like, yeah, and the way that he says the thing, whatever the words are. And that goofy helmet. That goofy helmet that he wears off and on for probably 2/3 of the movie, I guess. Yeah. This big microphone. Which safety he does. He still has. Well, his helmet is less safe than everyone who works for him, because all he has in front of his face is the microphone. He doesn't have the visor or anything that the rest of his crew does, because we have to see that it's Mick Jagger. Mm-hmm. Like, we have Mick Jagger in this movie. We're not gonna put him inside a motorcycle looking helmet where you can't see his face. That's right. Which, I mean, Mick Jagger's in this movie, which is odd because you don't really think of Mick Jagger as being an actor. But why?
Why is he here?
I don't know. Well,
like,
it
I'm
also
not saying
it's
a bad
like,
thing, but
it's
just
late
like,
too.
Yeah.
Also, it's 90s, so it's not like, I guess maybe it wasn't, even though they've still continued to perform, wasn't really the height of the Stones anymore, and so he was like, maybe I'll try something else. And just to do something, so he.
But they're not paying.
I mean,
him to use the music.
he has been in a bunch of movies, but it's usually like small.
Yeah.
And in this, just where it's like, oh look, Mick Jagger, and there's a couple of them where it's not. But
here is my cameo.
But this one is like, he's on the poster. He's like the second name, because for some reason it's Emilio Estevez, it's Mick Jagger, and Anthony Hopkins, which also, what is Anthony Hopkins doing in this movie?
Yeah.
There's no need for him.
Like, who
He doesn't
knew
have anything-
all of these people?
He doesn't have anything hard to do. I don't know. It's really odd. And it's not like, let's see, how much did this thing cost, if we even know? $30 million in 92. So it's about what, Ghostbusters in 84 cost like 35. And in like at the present time, so I don't know.
Yeah, but
what the different, I don't offhand, like if you said like what's the difference between like 1967 and now, like I can tell you right away, it's about like 7.2 times or something like that, and you can round down to 7 and it's fine. But the difference between the 80s and the 90s, I'm not sure about, because everything after the 70s gets muddy because there was like the deflation under Reagan, and it gets like harder to figure offhand. But it's not expensive. Which it doesn't really look expensive most of the time, except I think they must have spent most of the money on all of those future looking cars and like the train and stuff, which maybe are from something else. Maybe they didn't build them. I don't know, but they are kind of interesting looking.
No,
but they don't fit in the time, because this is
2009.
It's 2009 from 92, so it's 18 years. Not that long.
Yeah.
And there's all of this stuff, like now we can put like people in computers, and we've invented time travel, and the ozone layer.
2016 was bad.
The ozone layer's gone away, and there's been all of this like disease and plagues and nuclear waste, and the New York rivers are even more polluted. And like I feel like it would have taken like half the time that has passed for them to build that building.
Yeah.
Because I think it took something like 10 years to build the Twin Towers, and like big buildings take a long time. And it's not long enough. Like even Back to the Future was like, oh, it's 30 years, which is still not a huge amount of time, but it's more time than 18 years to change. Now the book, there's a book this is based on, which is a 50s science fiction novel called Immortality Inc. And the book took place in 2110 from 1959. So there was much more future, like it was so much further in the future that it was more reasonable that all of these things could have happened.
Yeah.
So I don't understand we need it to be only 20 years. Why not have it be, 50 years or 100 years or something? Because all of this stuff, mostly, except he's driving the Bollinger champagne truck, which I don't know if that's a real thing. It feels like not, because Bollinger is like a fancy pants kind of brand, and so they're this sort of like shack on a pickup truck looking thing that actually almost looks like Swiss or something. Like you expect the driver to be wearing like lederhosen or something. And that doesn't make any sense, because Bollinger is a French brand, because it's champagne, and like they're highbrow, like they're expensive. So this like hacked together looking like touristy fake truck doesn't seem to fit with the brand.
We'll see. Even on that, we get this moment where like a homeless guy is talking about, do you want some red wine or white wine? Because I haven't seen any wine since the 10-year
which is another. So that means 8 years ago at the least.
Yeah.
If the Depression started immediately after he traveled through time, like there's so little time. Like we went through a depression that took 10 years and then came out of it already, and it's in this short space of time. Well, I mean, he might not have seen any wine because there's his friend says there's people at the top and there's people at the bottom and there's no one in between, or not his friend, her friend.
Yeah.
And so it seems like, well, if you're in the city part of the city, which is where he steals the truck because it's the parking garage of her building that she lives in the fancy neighborhood, then they have wine, but then nobody else does.
Yeah, but see, that's the
although his friend has a bottle of something that they're drinking, it's blue, and but also he drinks like the whole glass all at once, so it can't be like that stiff.
It was effective immediately.
No, not in the club, because that looks like the same stuff when he's at the race promoter's apartment.
Yeah.
Which even that scene is weird when he at the race where he's like, I've got these sponsor guys I want you to meet. But he's already sponsored by like bigger brands. Like his race jacket or racing suit has like Champion spark plugs and like Valvoline oil. And so he already seems to have major brand sponsorships. And then there's this guy, Mr. Spark Plugs, that says he's from such and such a spark plug company that I've never heard of. And so it's like this fake, like low, like he has better brands already.
Well, I think that's a mix up between the
like somebody like the costume department wasn't told about this scene.
It's like no, we can't have any emblems or anything on the vehicle to show that he's sponsored.
But he's racing in like the Grand Prix of New York or whatever it is.
No, he's like amateur, so it's probably not that.
Well, no,
big.
He's a rookie. He's not an amateur.
Okay,
he's a rookie, but it's like so he's going professional, but he's new at this.
I guess I didn't win.
Although it seems like he doesn't just do Formula One racing, because there's some mention at some other point of a different kind of car that he talks about having driven. And so I guess he's just, I don't know if this is maybe like the guy in Love Bug kind of thing where he just like bounces around between different types of racing depending on where he can get driving work or something.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. You don't want to limit yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's different. It's different though. Like different kinds of racing are different.
Oh yeah. But that's fine. I mean, like learning and being able to do it is still good.
That's fine. I'm not really sure about his accident, because he just like gets bumped by the tire of the car behind him, and then there's a cut, and then he's like 20 feet in the air. Yeah. So he just like totally. And now I guess maybe if you suddenly stop the back tires of a Formula One car going at high speed, then maybe the tire stops, but the car continues to rotate, and so then it's going to lift up off the ground, and that's going to give it enough. Like it's going to be aerodynamic enough that it's going to stay in the air. But they don't show us how it works. They don't show it happening. It's just he is bumped and then he's in the air, and it's just a cut.
Well, I expected it to flip.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
But it doesn't flip, because it's like, okay, if the back tire does get held in place even at that speed.
Yeah,
no sense.
I don't know. I mean, like how if you you grab the hand, like if you use the front brake on a motorcycle or something, and you don't use the back, you'll kind of flip over.
I'm thinking like the water bottle challenge stuff, where people like flip the water bottle and try to land it. Like it'd be kind of like that, where it's like it would flip backwards while moving forwards. So
yeah.
Instead, now I'm not saying he'd live through the crash, but
it's a ramp.
But my God,
no, I mean it kind of explodes.
Yeah. On impact.
Yeah. Which I guess it probably would. Like there's. Formula One cars are light. They're made out of light stuff. They use like high grade fuel. So if you just like smash the whole thing, it's probably going to catch fire. Which is why they wear those like face mask things.
Yeah.
Which they do so much, like it's almost set up, if it wasn't for the intercut between the future Mick Jagger stuff at the same time, which is actually the beginning, because the titles happen over this like them coming around like from way down the road through the fog, and then it's which kind of looks like clouds. Like it reminded me a lot of the beginning of Twister.
Yeah.
Except the music's not as good.
Now, see, the thing that kind of made me wonder...
There's so much emphasis on the racing, and we show him suiting up, and he's going to race, and they talk about the race, and she wakes him up, like his alarm clock wakes him up, and then he doesn't want to get up, and she's like, come on, you got like 5 hours till the big race. But...
my question is, is the why did they have to do it at night? Like they could have done it at any time.
I don't know, because it does seem like it's a shut down area kind of.
Seems like
and it's not like it has it to be at the exact moment or something, because they're just plucking him out of time.
Yeah.
They kind of lock onto him in time. And it's not just they can like travel through time, they can see through time in like real time. Like he's watching the race on the TV, waiting for him to get to just the right moment so that they could laser grid snatch him.
Laser grid snatch.
And there's like all of this equipment and stuff, and there's like a thing. I don't know why they're counting down, because there's this like lock thing that's happening on the screen also.
It makes no sense.
But nobody knows how to count, because later Mick Jagger's like, I'll give you a 5-minute head start.
And then he just,
and then
one Mississippi, two Mississippi.
Well, no, it's not like that. That's the problem, is because he says 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. And it's like, no, that's what the Mississippi is for, to give you the space of a second. You don't stop between. Don't you know how to count?
Don't you know how to count?
We've also invented energy weapons over the last 20 years.
Okay.
But only the police and like the mercenary dudes seem to have them.
Like, those don't even look like normal energy weapons. Those are like Tesla weapons, because they shoot out electricity.
Well, there's the electricity ones, and then there's like the blue like energy bolt ones.
Oh, like the real laser guns.
Yeah.
Pew, pew.
Because they have that like really scary like electric lobotomizer thing in the trailer.
We will lobotomize you.
Yeah. Which, so I guess, does like traveling through time like kill you basically? Because they say later we took you, like we plucked you out a moment before you died.
Therefore, he's not dead.
And so, yeah, so that blows their whole like you're dead, like you died. It's like, well, actually, he didn't die. Now, maybe he would have died if you had not plucked him out of time, but you did, and so he didn't. And so now you have an ethical problem here that doesn't fit with your argument.
Because it's not like he was just a dead body they recovered and they managed to resuscitate. It's like, no, like he was still living. He was just injured.
Yeah, and I guess I
want to know exactly how much he was really injured, because it's like,
seems like not much.
Yeah, it's like
it seems like he was just knocked out, but bad enough that his heart stopped. And this guy, the doctor guy, has this terrible line where they finally get him. Like they use the defibrillator a few times, and finally they get him back alive. And he says, I wouldn't want to dance to it, but at least it's a pulse. And it's like, what?
What kind of pulse are you trying to dance to, man?
It's not like, it sounds like a normal, like you don't dance to a pulse.
I mean, if you could, that'd be weird.
I mean, I guess you can dance to whatever you want, but
I gotta stop you.
Probably
look at you funny.
And I mean, this is not as extreme a thing as it's not World War II if you don't see Hitler, but most of the time, if you're going to go to the future, we're going to see a nightclub at some point. And sometimes there's like meaningfulness to it, and sometimes it's like really future and different and strange, and or even something like the nightclub in The Matrix, which is not in the future, but it's like kind of like pushed an extreme. And
well, like when they go to the nightclub, like who are the people that are trying to
they're on the fringe. Everyone's on the fringe, they say. And then I don't know what the news crew is doing, but
yeah, like what is this? Like, oh, you like this club? No. Roll.
Yeah, she says, how do you like it? And he says, I don't.
I don't.
She's like, what? But because he's gotten like real drunk real fast, because I guess that is what it is. It's not like someone poisoned him or anything.
No,
is
it's
it?
like this is 100% 1,000 proof alcohol, and you'll just smell it, and then you'll drink it, and because you smelled
he drinks that down in one go too, just a whole glass.
Like just because you were smelling it first, you're now already drunk. Congratulations.
And he doesn't pay for it either. No. Like the bartender says, you want a drink? And he says, why not? He just hands him a drink, which he's already holding. So it almost seems like it's his drink. And he's like, I poured this drink. Then I remembered how drunk it would make me. I'm not going to drink this. Can't let it go to waste. You want it? That's what it seems kind of like.
Yeah.
because he doesn't ask him to pay. Maybe he's not even the bartender. We don't know.
I don't know. He's behind the counter, though.
He's behind the bar, so you can assume. But
at this kind of bar, it could be anybody at this point.
Well, because they're all on the fringe.
They're all on the fringe.
No one will turn you in here, except for the news crew. So they're just going around interviewing everyone, which seems like if you're at a place that's on the fringe, like when you say this club is on the fringe, you think of like the biker bar from Upgrade or something, where it's just there's no names, cocaine, there's no electronics. Yeah, you could do cocaine
or beer, but
yeah, but you can't. Maybe both. Don't mix them up. You don't want to snort beer, probably.
I mean, like if you did, I ain't gonna stop you, but it's a bit odd.
Just dissolve the cocaine in the beer and just go to town. I don't even know if that would work. Yeah, I don't know how eating cocaine works. I know apparently you can tell if it's the good stuff or not by tasting it, because everybody in movies just like sticks a knife in and then like licks it off, and they're like, yeah, and they nod to somebody else approvingly. So I don't know the difference between good cocaine and bad cocaine by taste. I don't have any first-hand experience of cocaine at all, so I don't know. But it just seems odd.
Sounds like he's trying to be defensive, guys. Like he doesn't want us to know about his cocaine addiction.
No. His friend just sells him out.
It's not his friend.
Well, no.
No, but it's
but he acts like he's his friend.
How fast was that? Like there wasn't even like a reward for him yet.
I guess
because like at that early there wasn't a reward.
No, they had like the wanted posters up, I guess, but they didn't have. It was just like, if you see him, tell us. But yeah, there wasn't a reward until later.
I ain't telling you shit.
And now maybe I didn't think of this while we were watching it because we both reacted to it. But since there was the 10-year depression, apparently, maybe the difference between $10 million in the present time at the time and 20 years in the future was not that different, because there wouldn't really have been inflation if there was a depression. So, I mean, depending on how the government decided to deal with it, maybe they just like printed a ton of money, inflated the heck out of everything, and that's what caused the depression. And then you can't really go back from that without having deflation, and then that causes all kinds of troubles. It's better than stagflation, though, which is the worst. You don't want stagflation.
That's when you get like deer all over the place. Can't do anything about it.
Yeah, don't inflate deer. Don't. It's messy. No one seems to know how to say Anthony Hopkins' character's name, because like he says it one way, like the guy that wants to be the new boss says it one way, Mick Jagger says it another way some of the other times, and then like Emilio Estevez says it one. So it's McCandless, but sometimes people sound like they say McCandis, and like they leave out the L. McLandis. I don't know.
Michelanis. Like,
so
please stop. It's not even close.
Now there's another hinting at future events that I'm not sure how to understand, because we're reintroduced to his girlfriend in the future, with her making this deal with these like Japanese businessmen dudes over some kind of mineral rights for somewhere, and it's all very high stakes apparently, but we don't really know anything about it. But someone she mentions to the guy, because he's being cowardly and would have like lost in the deal, and she's just like, nah, give us. And they consider for a moment, and then they do, and she says sarcastically, if there were more people like you before, maybe we wouldn't have lost the trade war. So it seems like we lost some kind of trade war with Japan.
Maybe.
Which doesn't, I mean, we might could lose a trade war with China now, but not Japan.
No.
And even in, I don't remember exactly when the China like manufactures everything started. I guess it might have been a little after 92. And so they couldn't have predicted this, maybe. But
well, you want to hear something funny?
We might still be okay.
Whenever she said that, I thought she said train war.
Oh,
no! Nope. Like, who the fuck is building trains when you have cars like this? I mean, like, maybe you should be building trains because you have cars like this.
Well, they did build trains, though.
You mean trade? Well, don't I look silly?
They did have trains, though. but just like basically like future looking trolleys. They didn't really go anywhere like high speed or anything. But I don't know if maybe this is just still we're thinking in the way that like we were in the 80s, where like Japan is starting to like make all the technology stuff or like do all of the like engineering and everything. Marty says in Back to the Future, like Doc Brown says, Japan. And Marty says they make the best stuff in Japan, which is very different from the like occupied Japan that Doc Brown in the 50s is familiar with. And then of course Japan is still very like technologically advanced and stuff, but they don't do the manufacturing really anymore because everybody makes everything in China.
Actually, it's kind of funny because I was watching a show and that was a comment that was made. Is they're over in Iraq at like a diner, and like the radio isn't working, and you have like the guy who works the diner, and he's just smashing it, and he's like, I don't know why this the CD player isn't working. It was made in Japan. So there you got that one.
Let's see. So was he going to just like escape from New York on the boat, and that was supposed to make things okay?
I don't know.
Were they
like, that's what I would have done.
Is there like a state lines kind of thing going on, or he can just escape the city and they're not going to chase him? Because it seems like they're still going to chase him.
Well, one of the things I was a little confused by was the whole overt purpose behind everything that they're trying to do in the movie / story / book, whatever. Because if the guy who's in charge of the entire company that owns the world
apparently
only has 36 hours to live, because his body is dead and his brain is in the spirit circuit or whatever it's called.
Spiritual switchboard.
Yeah,
which
spiritual
is like
dumb board.
Oh, we have to talk about the nun in a minute.
Oh, give me a second. Give me a second on that one. Okay, so that's fine. But the body is required within 36 hours.
Yeah, because I guess you degrade in the computer or something.
Yeah. And so it took longer than 36 hours.
Maybe. I mean, they say he has like an hour left, so they pushed it right to the edge or something.
Yeah, it seems a bit fishy to me.
Because I think he was maybe about to die when they went to time jack him. And so then it's as much time as possible.
Yeah.
But it's still, I mean, we only have 2 nights, I guess. Because we start on a night, which doesn't count, and then we have
the next day,
and then the next night. Yeah. So maybe, I don't know. The passage of time is difficult. I mean, it is confusing for a period of time because there's actually two schemings going on, and we don't know it. Because we think that everything is coming from Anthony Hopkins, even though we're not supposed to know it's Anthony Hopkins yet. But it's actually him has one group of people, and then the other boss guy has another group of people.
Well, see, okay, so you have the Bone Jackers, which are the guys ran by Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
And then you have the cops, and then you have the homeless people.
Yeah.
All right, so when we get started, you have the boss, who not the Anthony Hopkins guy.
Yeah.
We have the boss that we get to see, like
silver chair guy.
Yeah, silver chair guy. And he has the Bone Jackers go get this guy. Because he's the one talking to him at the beginning about, like, where's this dude? Like, that's what you were paid for, all this. So we know that he's involved in that direction.
They go up and talk to the stained glass window when they're, like, failing.
Yeah, so we don't see him talking to Anthony Hopkins. Like, that's not a thing yet.
No, because it looks like Emilio Estevez.
Yeah.
When he talks to him, and he's got this robe for some reason, then he holograms away.
And so you follow that up with the guy shows up and he escapes, and now the police are after him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't quite understand why the police are so much after him.
I guess just like being a Freejack is illegal because it's legal to bone jack people, apparently, because his company owns everything, it seems.
But then you follow that up with, I can understand Silver Chair Guy hiring the homeless people to kill him. That makes sense. But it's like the changing of hands for everything. Because then it's like, now they're not police, they're personal guards of the company who are inside.
It might be the same thing.
It's just like, there's enough explanation to show who these people are supposed to be.
Which also, they load their guns. Like, in a
Way too
dramatic
late.
way, when it's like, why? Like, you were already standing there with your guns. I'm pretty sure they were loaded. You didn't shoot anybody yet. He went upstairs, you pointed guns at him, you did not fire.
Yeah.
You don't need to reload.
No.
Was it fake? Did they not have time to load the guns before he got there and they were just bluffing?
We didn't know he was going to be here this soon. What do we do?
Because then they're like,
Pretend.
"Shh," and they all load simultaneously.
Fake it till you make it. Fake it till you make it. Doesn't
Yeah, I'm not sure when Silver Chair Guy changes his mind. Because he could have just killed him or had him killed. Like, why didn't he hire the homeless people much earlier?
Yeah.
Because like half the movie goes by and it's just Mick Jagger trying to recover him. And he's like, you have to recover him. Like, the boss is going to die.
Well, see, I can understand, like,
He breaks a Fabergé egg.
yeah, I can understand the whole, we have the Bone Jackers and it's like his job. So it's like job pride is why he's doing it. So I can
Yeah.
kind of understand that. But it's the whole, there are counter forces and none of the counter forces do anything until like, oh, we need to have a climactic scene to change the story purpose. So here, now we're going to include the homeless people with guns. So
Yeah.
now we have to go and confront the guy who is trying to kill you. Like, I feel that the story elements existing are okay, but there's no explanation for anything really being there. So it loses its importance. Like, because we see the guy who's eating swamp rat, and he's like, "It's really good swamp rat."
River rat.
Huh?
River rat.
River, you cut off the tail, you cut off the head, you use that sauce. And then there you go. And I'm like, all right, so we get a character that's kind of supposed to be rebuilding him. But why is it the same guy that's attacking him with the other homeless people? Because that's the guy that got stabbed with the sword.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why did you even bother building him back up? Because you know who he is. You know who he is. What are you even doing any of this for? Like, what's
I
the
don't
point?
know. I guess maybe they were keeping an eye on him, or he didn't realize who he was at first, or except he did, because then he says his name to us at the end of the scene after there's no one around to hear, which is kind of dumb. Because remember, if it's just for us, it's bogus. So,
Well, like, I didn't have so much of a problem with it afterwards, whenever we know that he's like part of the homeless attack crew. Because he's a reoccurring character that's part of the conflict. So that doesn't bother me so much.
well, I mean, we already cast this guy. He's already getting paid as a speaking role. We'll just use him again.
Exactly.
But just that he's like, I know your name at the end of the scene is weird. Everybody has shotguns.
And if they don't have shotguns, they have Uzis.
Yeah. But there's lots, like, he goes to his old apartment, and there's like a family living there, and they realize who he is, and the guy's just reaches to the side and just comes back out with the shotgun. And they're all double barrels. They're all double barrel shotguns, and some of them are shorter than others, but they're all. And that guy, there's a moment where we can't see the gun and we hear it supposedly cock, and it's not the sound at all from just the hammers going back on a double barrel, and so it's really silly.
Like, what is this?
And then he's like sleeping in a church, and then a nun is like, "You can't be here." And shows up. She's got a shotgun.
But why?
And well, I mean, it's a tough neighborhood.
Are you a religious man? You might want to start praying. Like,
yeah, if you're a praying man, you might want to start. She says.
What is this?
But then she like turns out to be friendly, basically, and she helps him. She looks up stuff in the database and tells him where to find his friend, and gives him a gun, which is not a shotgun.
Nope.
Because it's hard to hide that, I guess.
That he manages to hide in his sock?
Yeah, I don't know when he moved it to his sock, because he did have it not in his sock earlier.
Okay, so it's like he has it, and he's in the car driving, because he pulled it out on the guy.
Yeah.
He's like, "Is this your truck?" "Yeah, it's the company's truck." "Not anymore."
Yeah.
And then he spends the whole time driving. So when did he put it in his sock? Because right after the driving, it's straight into the river.
Yeah, because he crashes the car and jumps out.
So he's just like, oh, here, I'm like in the river. So let me, one, I'm dead.
Yeah.
And two, let me
he
swim.
jumps off the Brooklyn Bridge or whatever, which
like,
people do.
what?
I don't remember if it's Brooklyn Bridge or the George Washington Bridge or what, but it was
what is this?
like people do that to kill themselves.
Yeah.
They jump off the bridge.
We recommend not doing that. Please and thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're going to kill yourself, then probably use a more sure way, I guess, because sometimes you don't die when you jump off a bridge. You're just really hurt.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. So you can make it more certain if that's what you're going to do. But he doesn't die. He does seem like he's really hurt, though, as he kind of barely makes it up onto the shore, and then he lays there for a long while the homeless guy has this really weird eagle metaphor that he tells him.
Which also doesn't make any sense.
No.
'Cause it's just like the eagle had X's in its eyes, and then it just, like, the nation is dead. Like,
Yeah. Well, he
What?
says, have you ever seen that? And he says, no. And then he laughs and says, I haven't either, which is supposed to be his, well, that's why we haven't given up. Because he's like, what's the point anymore? And he's like, what's the point? Let me tell you this eagle story that doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't make any sense.
it's a nice little story, but
It's a nice story, but it doesn't, it's weird.
It's just
It's a weird story. And so eventually they make it up to the top of the building where the soul or the spiritual switchboard actually is.
How does the spiritual switchboard control the stuff in the building?
Well, I guess it's his, like he's connected into the computer system or something. I don't know.
I am the building.
But I mean, and first it's at the top of the building and it's shaped like a jack, which the Jack logo is a logo that's throughout the company. Like it's on all of the, like it's like the logo or the splash screen for the video calls, and
Yeah.
like it's the logo for the company. And I don't really know why, except that there's this
they say Jack a lot.
They do say Jack, but I don't know why, because there's no, I guess maybe like they bone jack people from the past the way that you would like carjack someone. Except they don't steal their bones. I guess
But
they're
if
supposed
they
to steal
did,
like
that would be cool.
their dead body, and so they're like
I
just
guess-
about to be
I
dead
guess
body.
Dead body Jack doesn't sound as good.
Well, I mean, you could say body jack, but maybe just don't use jack. Maybe call it something else.
Something not lame.
I mean, there is kind of a Looper sort of thing going on here, where they're like, we steal people who were going to die anyway, so no one will notice. Because everybody in the future
Wait.
is poisoned and stuff.
Now I thought Looper was
Looper is the opposite. We send them to the past
so they die.
after they're already... No, they kill them, and then they send them to the past, so there's no evidence. Or though they transport them through time, kill them in the past, and then burn the body.
Yeah.
So, like, it's a person who's dead that didn't exist yet at that point, and so there's no way they could... Like, you can't solve a murder of someone who was never alive.
Yeah.
But so this is like, it's not that, but it's like, we're going to do it in such a way that no one notices in time. Because we're not just going to just steal people. Although it seems like there's lots of people that probably wouldn't really be missed very much. So
Something else I'm
like a lot of
thinking
trouble.
is because of these bone jackers, they talk about, like, I thought this area was clear. I thought it was secure. And I'm thinking, okay. They get attacked. So obviously they're attacked more than once. Because, like, they're having to worry about areas.
Oh, so I
being
guess
secure or
that's
something.
Silverchair guy, right? Probably he organized the attack.
See, that's what I was
Because who
thinking.
else would know where the convoy was? Mick
Yeah.
Jagger says. So
But
yeah,
then-
so he organized the attack so that he let them travel through time, and then he was just going to kill all of them, including Mick Jagger, I guess.
but
But it didn't work.
like, I don't know. I feel like some of the dialogue for the character kind of like it contradicts. Like, if you're making sure an area is clear, then that means that you're already suspecting trouble because trouble has happened in the past.
Well, it seems like
What kind?
everywhere is trouble, though.
Yeah, like what
You know,
kind
the
of
nun says, "You think this is a bad neighborhood? You're in for a surprise." And they go to the other neighborhood, and just like a gunfight breaks out in the street for what seems like no reason at all. Just a guy is just like, "I'm gonna shoot this guy over there," who's not even looking this way. And we're not told that there's like gangs or anything. It just seems like things are bad, and so everybody's going to fight.
Even with that scene, like just the people standing around, just like, oh, okay. It's not like anybody runs; they just kind of crouch.
No, because
and then
it
like
happens all the
over,
time. I
it's like,
guess it's no big deal.
Like they only shoot like at the upper torso. You squat, you fine. No one knows how to dodge.
But so then the thing is built on the top of the building. And it's just like out in the open. I know it's 200 stories up, but it still seems like
it could be a disaster if somebody just had a bazooka.
Yeah,
because it's like this is where your brain is stored.
Just shoot it down.
Or
like,
not your brain, your mind, as someone makes a point to say very clearly.
Might as well be the same thing.
He's not a brain in a jar. It's his mind.
But if I smash his mind with a crowbar, same outcome?
But it seems like you didn't see Skyscraper.
No.
I talked about it on the show already. I didn't mention this part. The like ball at the top of the skyscraper is like this room where you can hologram everything, which of course they show you pretty early in the movie, and you think, oh well, this is where the like something important towards the end of the movie will happen.
There's no reason we're going to use that C4. You'll receive that part later.
Yeah, you'll understand that in a couple of months. But so it's like that, and then they go up to the top of the building, and then it turns into like holograms, and they can't see anything. And then he's like, what it really seems like, because it's early 90s, is remember in Deep Space Nine when Sisko visits the wormhole aliens in the first episode, and he's like all of these different places, and he's talking to them on like Lightning Planet.
Yeah, Lightning Planet's awesome.
It feels a lot like that, because it's just, and actually you can see the green screen like one time a little bit, because she has this like frizzy 90s hairspray hair, and so there's all of these like little bits of it at the base of her hair,
like that's behind it.
And so then when you see there's like a close-up on her, and you can see just a faint outline of the green around her hair, because also she has like light colored hair, and so I'm sure they were having to be like really careful to not have the green color for the key bleed into the like vaguely yellow color of her hair. But then it's just this weird, like the background keeps changing, and it's a church, and it's Monument Valley, and he's in a white suit, and now he's in a black suit, and he's smoking a cigar, except he lights it and then he never puffs on it ever again.
Ever again.
and so there's just all of this like bogus hologram stuff. And there's this weird, like super obvious, like matte painting when they're going into the lobby of the building, when they're riding up the escalator.
Yep.
And I like the way it looks, because it looks super old fashioned, but it looks way more old fashioned than anything else in the movie. And it doesn't look like it belongs in 92 at all. It looks like it belongs in like 62 maybe. And it's really weird that it looks like that, because there aren't really that many effects, like visual effects. There's a lot of special effects. There's a lot of stuff blowing up, and a lot of gunfights and car chases and things.
I say, like, because the most for like the special effects would just be like some of the, like the lightning from the guns, like
visual effects,
some of the pews.
Yeah, that. Yeah, I guess that is all of the the laser weapons.
But see, like like a lot of that just it feels very minuscule because of its overall size to the screen.
But there's not like, I guess they do
and
have
it can
the,
be
like,
simple.
When the holograms fade, like when Anthony Hopkins fades away or something, they do that. Yeah. But most of it's like, because even when they do, he gets real drunk real fast. Mm-hmm. There's like this really neat usage of like a half of a push pull, where you understand like he's getting like woozy and vague, and then they do this like double vision thing from his perspective, and all of that looks practical to me. It looks like a camera filter, and the push pull thing is really effective because it's really subtle, and it just has this like ooh kind of like way that it makes you feel when you watch it, because you're just like, he doesn't move. The way a push pull works is the character in the frame or the object or whatever doesn't change size, but the background does. Yeah. And so that you just see like the room like moving in and out while he doesn't move. and it's really effective.
If you want a more direct example that's easy to find, in Jaws.
Well, it's the Jaw. Yeah, everybody thinks of it as the Jaws shot. When it's really called as a push-pull.
Yeah, like that. That's what it is.
Or a pull-push. You can do it either way, but because you can either dolly in and lens out, or lens in and dolly out, and you can do it either way.
And if they're done right, they look really
lens
good.
out, dolly in. Yeah.
And if they're done bad, then obviously they don't look good.
And sometimes I can't remember what it was in. I just talked about one recently. It might be in an episode that hasn't gone up yet, where I remember mentioning that there was a really interesting usage of a push-pull that you didn't really notice unless like you were really looking. I don't remember what it was now. My other favorite one, besides like the obvious Jaws one, which is super impressive because like they're just running, pushing the dolly. Like it comes from so far back and goes so far in. Like it's a ridiculous shot, and it's on track on sand. Like it's much more of an achievement of a shot if you understand what's going on than just like the effect that it has if you look at it.
It's like, hey, that looks cool. Wow! Can't believe they actually did that.
But my other favorite one is in the beginning of The Mask, when Tina walks into the bank and Stanley and Charlie are sitting there like on the edge of his desk, and she's like walking in, and it's in slow motion, and the saxophone music plays, and then like they look and like they turn their heads like dogs in a cartoon, and just there's this like it's a really effective usage of a push pull also, because it's just like they're like, whoa, look at this girl. It's really effective, and I really like it. And actually that is the original like Laserdisc original commentary for The Mask. Chuck Russell actually explains what a push-pull is there, which is like my first like knowing what that was and how you did it.
Yes, he said Laserdisc.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, it's on every edition of it. It's sometimes joined by a later commentary with other people on it, which is not as good. Not other people, like it's still Chuck Russell, but it's other people. It was recorded in like 2003 or something. But the original one is from like 95, just after the movie came out, the first Laserdisc version. And he mentions Laserdisc sometimes, like he says like. There's a couple of times where he wants you to like slow motion through something, and he says like if you can frame through on your Laserdisc player, and they leave it in there on the DVD version so you can hear him talking about Laserdisc, and so you know that that's when it was from. It's one of my favorite commentaries. I think I've done a collector's edition about it before, but
Lost Technologies from a millennia ago.
I mean, not a millennia ago, but from the previous millennium, yeah. So, so he doesn't drive?
Yeah, I guess not. Like
Anthony Hopkins doesn't drive, because that's the tip off.
Yeah.
Because they act like they changed the mind thing, and then he like boguses his way through it, and Mick Jagger's decided to believe him by that point. I don't really know why.
Because you don't make many friends in this business.
I'm not your friend. Or are we friends, he says. And then like the train goes by, and he's just like standing there in the street.
Oh shit!
And he walks over, which I did actually kind of think before the whole like Anthony Hopkins turns out to be stalling, and then Mick Jagger shows up. I thought they were going to kill Anthony Hopkins, but then Mick Jagger was going to be like, "No, I'm going to get like I've chased this guy long enough. I'm going to get him." And so then they were just going to have to finish fighting with him and escape from him too. Which is, I guess, kind of like a really Bond movie kind of thing, because in several of them, they kill the main bad guy, but then there's still like the chief henchman left that's the actual final battle that has to happen.
Yeah.
They don't go that way, but they do. There's no double in this, but they do the second half of what usually happens when you have a double person in a movie, where they don't know which one is the real one. Except it's not like it's still just the one guy, and so he's trying to have to convince them that it's actually Anthony Hopkins inside him.
Well, the interesting thing is like the code that we get to see is the code that's like, oh well, he's going to know his code. He's the only one that does, and so you got.
Yeah, and we think it's the code that he punches in to erase him.
Yeah, and that's the code that he starts to give him, and of course,
But then it's not really.
Since I think that was probably one of the better like, aha, I got you, kind of things. especially when it's like, oh yeah, like we know it's not you because so and so doesn't drive. So yeah, tell him to get better at this. And yeah, we knew the code was fake because fuck that other guy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I guess that's the reason why he turns, because he says, like, he tells Mick Jagger that he's not required anymore. And so then he's like, okay, well, then so, you're not required anymore. So
get wrecked, son. Okay, so even on that, one of the thoughts that I had was whenever Silverchair guy is just going to let him leave.
Yeah.
He's like, so from a point of perspective, I'm taking over the company because I want this fucker dead.
Yeah.
I don't care about these two people. Like, I can't leave her here anymore, so I gotta fire her.
Yeah, because she knows. But which I guess is the problem, because she knows. But
it's one of these things where it's like, who are you gonna tell? You're not gonna tell anybody you're with a Jack guy. Just leave. You leave me alone. I'll leave you alone. You're done. Whatever. But she slaps him. And when she slaps him, I'm just like, see, now it's gonna go bad for you.
Well, is that actually the turn though, or did he never have any plan to let them go?
Well, see, that's I don't know, but I feel like if she didn't hit him, just maybe.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
Because he's wanting to be the president of the company. It's like, why else would he care? But we know he's an asshole, and so you do to him, and he does to you, and then he gets shot at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like say that it was he's Silverchair guy, but I guess it's actually Anthony Hopkins Silverchair, which is like really pretentious. And he has this, what I guess at that point is probably 100-something-year-old car. That car that he has.
Yeah,
because it's like old. Well, I guess, see, I keep thinking it's further in the future than it is, but it's not. But
well, even by 2009 standards, it's still old.
It might not be 100 years old, but it's an old car, which he says, let's see what it can do. I'm like, it can't do very much. No. it can't.
It'll take you on a nice ride.
And that's what it's for.
Maybe you can invite Miss Daisy.
It's, yeah, maybe. You could do that. So how do you feel about stars?
This one's difficult. Because
one thing you said while we were watching it that you haven't said now is that like it's packed with action that's boring.
Yeah, it's. I'm giving it a 2 because it was hard for me to watch. I didn't enjoy watching it. Like there was stuff in it that's like, oh, this is kind of interesting, but yeah, like. There's a lot of action in it, and it is all boring.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, these are famous people who are all together in this movie.
Why?
What? What is going on here? Just if you cannot watch it, don't bother with it.
Yeah. It's a little disappointing because I kind of wanted more out of it, and there could have been more. I mean, it's kind of a neat sort of idea, I guess, this like reverse looping thing that they're doing. And I mean, this what happened, the reason that we watched this movie was because I listened to the 2112 album, the Rush album. And so then I was thinking about like oppressive future societies, and I wanted to watch a movie that has an oppressive future society in it. And I thought we were gonna do Dark City maybe, and like I went to buy a copy of Dark City, and I was like wandering around the store, and then I happened to cross a copy of this, and it has this really great, like if you look at the poster, it's basically the same as the DVD cover, or it has like the same like this like laser grid thing, except it's all in white on the DVD cover, and so it's Mick Jagger, Emilio Estevez, Anthony Hopkins' head, and like this grid kind of pattern, and then there's these. Like almost graph paper like lines. You don't know are lasers just from looking at them because it's white, going off to the side. And like that kind of design, I really like. Even though it seems late for it, this being in the 90s instead of the 80s, it seems much more of an 80s thing. You sort of associate like the laser background for like high school family pictures and things as being an 80s thing more than a 90s thing. But so I looked at that and I was like, oh, Okay. And also, Mick Jagger's in a movie. So, like that was, and so, it could have been more. I mean, that super obvious old fashioned looking matte painting, like, does kind of do it for me, even though it doesn't belong in this movie, because it's almost like a, Metropolis kind of like artificial looking, future artifice thing. But yeah, there's a lot of action. It's not that interesting. I have like many questions. I mostly don't care.
Hey man, you need to keep your head down. Everybody's after you.
So
hey, let me just be obnoxious and in the way because I can't take advice in a dystopian world.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not exactly dystopian, but it's bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's something, like, it's not even post-apocalyptic because there's been a depression and the environment is bad and there's no, like, we destroyed the ozone fast.
We destroyed the ozone. People are dead.
Yeah, well, yeah, that is like they've lived their whole life, which he's assuming like everyone is under 18.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense either. Like, this should be further in the future. It makes no sense, even from the movie part of the movie-based stuff, not just that the book exists. Like, it should be further in the future. It would make way more sense and be much more reasonable. Except I guess we need the girlfriend to still be alive. And still be, like, of a reasonable age that it's not creepy when they're together. Because remember, as National Treasure 2 reminded us, old people being romantic is icky. Which also... Nope, that's John Voight, not Martin Sheen.
Darn it.
Okay, not a connection. Like, I was going to connect it, and then at least I realized ahead of time.
Sorry, no tiger blood here.
No. That's Charlie Sheen.
Hey, like, they're all genetically connected.
They are. Which actually, okay, so wait. So I'm going to give it 2 stars also, because there's some interesting stuff in it, but it's mostly just, like, super mediocre.
Like, whatever.
Yeah, it's mostly whatever. How do the Sheens look so much like each other? Like, normally, because Martin Sheen and Emilio Estevez look much, like, almost dead on like each other. Like, if you watch Apocalypse Now, which is young Martin Sheen, and then you look at this age Emilio Estevez in this movie, which is about the same age, they're so close. And then Charlie Sheen is also very similar. Like, they all have, like, the same, like, their eyes are the same distance apart, their nose is the same, their jaw is the same. They look so much the same in, like, an extreme way that mostly people related to each other don't. Like, both, like, I look a lot like my dad, and my brother looks a lot like my dad, and we look similar to each other, but not this much. Like, not so much. Like, Kenny has a non-identical twin brother, a paternal twin brother, and they don't look as much alike as the Sheens. Yeah. So, like, it's crazy how much they look alike. I don't understand it. Like, it's almost like they're clones and they didn't tell anyone, and they just, like, skewed it just a little bit so no one would notice, but not so much that you might not notice if you look close.
I need a clone of myself. But don't enhance it.
Yeah.
Don't make it age faster. I want to raise it as my child.
Uh-huh. Which is creepy!
Attack of the Clones.
Really creepy. Yeah, I know. I thought you were going to tell anyone. I thought you were going to leave it for people to figure out, like you did whatever that other thing was that you did recently.
No. Because Star Wars.
Because Star Wars, okay. Well, I guess. And so then we get a Scorpion song in the credits instead of a Stones song. Like, Mick Jagger's in the movie. Where are the rest of the Stones? Why didn't they write a song?
They didn't pay enough.
I guess not. Like, they could afford Mick. They couldn't afford the whole Stones.
No.
So.
Like, you got, like, a quarter Stone.
Yeah. 1/4 of the Stones. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all you have to say about Freejack. We'll see you next time.
Later.